Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I would like to talk about the books that I read in the month of June. June is a short month. There are only 30 days in it, and I am going to use that as the reason that I did not read as many books as I wished to this month. I'm also going to use the fact that I was on my grand world tour of Stockport alongside my good friend Margaret Holbrook. We had 4 events taking place over 2 weeks, which meant that the 2 weeks on either side of that were mostly the only weeks I had free because all of the writing shenanigans that I have going on nowadays. However, the books that I read in June are Magnus Powermouse by Dick King-Smith, Some Tame Gazelle by Barbara Pym, 3 Days in June by Anne Tyler, The Perfect Golden Circle by Benjamin Myers, Telling Tales by Anne Cleeves, The Planet Spins on Its Axis Regardless by Kavita A. Jindal, and Cuddy by Benjamin Myers. This was one of those fortuitous moments when I managed to find a pristine new copy at the charity shop whilst I was reading the library edition, so I now have my own copy of this, so I am happy. It has been something of the mixed reading month. We started off with a great success with Magnus Powermouse. I was very enthusiastic to read this, having spent so long looking for this book. It took me over 20 years to find a copy. I needed this specific copy. I needed to find it myself. It had to be a charity shop. There was a whole quest that I've been talking about for a rather long time when it came to this book. And here we have a young mouse called Magnus, who is born to rather unsuspecting parents when he is the biggest of the litter and quickly eats them out of house and home. And they begin searching across the farmyard, trying to find food sources for their son. And it's a very nice, happy little adventure in, does it even reach 100 pages? In just over 100 pages. It was fantastic. It stood up as a children's classic in my perspective. I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading this one again and having a little bit of nostalgia on a Sunday morning. It was great. In terms of Some Tame Gazelle, I believe that Barbara Pym is going to be a writer whose work, for me, works best upon rereading, because I know there was a lot in here that I enjoyed. I also remember reading the final chapter at the pub when I went there, yet I'm now struggling to recall the characters. I'm pretty sure that in this book we have 2 sisters who really getting up each other's noses, and they keep inviting these young religious men to their house and all of this sort of thing, and prying into people's lives. And they have this almost want to change their... Are they sisters though, or are they just friends? They might just be friends, because does one of them have a sister who lives up the road? Or does she have a friend? You see, this is what I mean. It's where it's a tale that's got a bit confused in my mind and muddied. It's one where I remember the liking of it and the return to Barbara Pym's writing more than I remember the actual goings on within the novel, unlike an academic question where a lot of that novel I've retained and remember why I enjoyed it. In terms of this one, I feel like I don't remember much and I'm going to have to return to it. I can't give any proper thoughts on it because I don't remember it well enough. 3 Days in June by Anne Tyler, however, is a book that I particularly enjoyed. It does exactly what it says on the tin, and it's about our protagonist, whose name I've forgotten because I'm just that good. She ends up sacked from her job. Well, she's not sacked. She is almost got someone suggesting she leaves her job because they don't really think that she's a people person and able to do the job that she's done for so long and she's been working towards, and they want to go in a completely different direction with a different head teacher. It's the same weekend her daughter is getting married and her ex-husband turns up at her door with a cat wanting to stay there. And it's interesting to compare this to Redhead by the Side of the Road, which I read not that long ago, because both of them seem to be about characters who are living very unremarkable lives, but they are settled and they don't want much discord in their life, and these people are coming along and sowing discord. And in Redhead by the Side of the Road, we saw someone wanting to return to normality, and maybe in 3 Days in June we see somebody questioning how they ended up with such a reliable life, looking at their past and seeing what the past did to create this present, and also maybe questioning whether they want the discord to continue to be there, whether they're welcoming the change. And I enjoyed comparing these against one another. It makes me smile to remember past Charlie saying years ago if he never read an Anne Tyler novel in his life, he'd be happy, because I am waiting for books to appear on the library shelves that are Anne Tyler books for me to read. And it's almost like she's I've sideswiped all these other authors who I plan to read Anne Tyler. I've swerved from these other writers to read Anne Tyler, and it's just interesting to me that that's happened. I never expected it to, but now I'll pick up a book, I'll read a blurb, and I'll think, oh, I want to see what this one's going to be about. Maybe it's just that I've got older and I like the more mundane tales, looking at people's lives. It's an odd one where people have recently taken to telling me that in my own writing, I make the everyday seem extraordinary. And I am liking seeing other writers do it too. Then we have The Perfect Golden Circle by Benjamin Myers, a book that I keep saying I'm not sure whether a lot of people will like this, but I don't know. Each chapter's around the same length and follows these two men who are going around the English countryside creating crop circles. And there is a repetitive quality to the narrative that I don't know whether people will enjoy, but I enjoyed it, and I weirdly found myself getting reminded of the BBC comedy The Detectorists. I remember watching that the first time round, and it's something that I should probably revisit. There isn't a lot of humour in The Perfect Golden Circle, but just from the relationship between the two main characters, who have this, I won't say friendship, because it feels like it's not really heading towards the realms of friendship. They both seem to be doing this because they have a specific idea and an ideal, but you know that if it wasn't for these crop circles, maybe they would never get along with each other. So it was interesting because of that, and because of the format that the author chose to write this novel in. But I don't know if a lot of people would enjoy this book. I am still going ahead and reading more Benjamin Myers and enjoying what I'm reading. But this one was one where I was a bit like, right, okay, I like it, but will other people? I can't say for sure. And then we had Telling Tales by Anne Cleeves. Now this one is one that took me a very long time to read. I started it months ago, and then the library wanted my copy back, so I decided I'd finish it. But I knew who the killer was, so it felt like just waiting for that to come out. And I didn't particularly care for this one as much as I like The Crow Trap, and I think it's just because nothing that Anne Cleeves did, it was nothing to do with the writing. I just personally struggle with any books that are to do with domineering men or domineering fathers, and when it's got this religious bent to it, and I just it was like the reasons that the man in this went towards religion, it was just a bit filthy, and maybe that's what my problem was. It was just a bit too realistic to things that I've seen in the past, and we know that I'm kind of steering clear of like the darker, gorier things, and there wasn't anything gory in here, but there was something that was a bit dark and grim, and just on a personal level I didn't like that. But I think that as a crime novel, taking away any personal ideas I might have, like issues I might have, it's a stand-up crime novel, and I can see why people enjoy the Vera Stanhope series. I do plan on continuing my reading of Anne Cleeves' books. And then we had The Planet Spins on Its Axis Regardless by Kavita Jindal. I was sent this for free in exchange for an honest review, and that is on my channel, so I'll link that in the description. And then finally, I read Cuddy. Cuddy by Benjamin Myers. I got this because this and The Perfect Golden Circle were the only two left at my library when I went in. I've now since borrowed The Gallows Pole and Bee Stings. This was the winner of the Goldsmiths Prize in 2023. I borrowed it from the library that year and then never read it. And I really enjoyed the first part of this book, which is almost poetry and follows these characters as they are travelling around the north of England trying to find a place to bury the saint, Cuddy, Cuthbert. And then we had the second part, which was set in a town nearby, which was a bit more difficult because it was just solid blocks of text, and it was all told in second person, the you voice, but I managed to contend with that, and by the end of it was really rooting for the characters. We had the third part that was almost like a Victorian epistolary letter. Well, it was like an epistolary novel, but very short, included in here, and it reminded me of the Victorian Gothic in the way that it was told, and I particularly enjoyed that section. It was just the final section, the most modern section, where I liked the human story there, and I liked to see this young man's life explored, and I liked what Cuddy and the cathedral did for him. It just took me a while to get through this book. And I was talking to my friend Charlie of Charlie Book Reads about this book, and she talked about how slow going it was. And I don't mind a slow book, but I have also kept saying that similar to the Barbara Pym Some Tame Gazelle, I think that this is a book that's going to bear rereading, and I might get more upon a second reading of it. It's one of those things that I find with Benjamin Myers. He has some brilliant, beautiful prose that is incredibly evocative, and I like. And then there'll just be these things where it's like actually thinking about it and considering the story. I just think, well, how did you even think about that? It's talking about the strength of the author's prose, because the topics that Benjamin Myers are writing about, apart from Rare Singles, which I read last year and set me off on this journey to read his works, the topics just are so niche, and yet it's the writing of them that almost you have to read them because they're written in such a fashion that it's compelling and you're wondering what the author's going to do next. And I really appreciate that when it comes to my reading of this author. So yeah, it's an odd one. It's like, I don't know really why I liked it. I just did. But there are many fantastic, much better versed in fiction and literature than I am, who have got much better reviews of Cuddy out there. So I recommend going and finding one of them and hearing their thoughts, because mine are all over the place. Anyway, them's the books. If you've read anything that I've mentioned in this video and would like to discuss it, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.